What? So we are going to start recording. I'm going to get us off and going because I want to get into this topic. We got a lot to cover. I am going to work on streaming live to Facebook now, so give me 1 second. But set this up.
This is the calm crystal.
So cool. I love crystals, but I don't know much about them, so I'm excited to learn more about them too.
They have magical powers. They hold energy.
All right, so I'm going to start recording because now we are going live for the first time on Facebook. We're going to start going live with our virtual events with the Find Calm Here community. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you're watching or watching the replay, I appreciate your time and attention as we go through this amazing chat we have tonight. So our community Find Calm Here is where we talk in conversations on these Zoom calls around finding calm in daily life and how that looks for each different person, and what practices and structures and programs and plans and apps and all the lovely things in the world that we have, how we can use these to find some calm in daily life. And today we have Heath with us, and he is going to talk about finding calm with affirmations. So I am going to toss it over to Heath to get us started with a little bit about himself and about our topic for tonight. So thanks, Heath.
Yo, what's up? I am pumped to be here. I'm forever grateful. A little bit about myself. I worked a lot of years in a career that I really had no passion for. I didn't know anything about affirmations. I didn't know anything about setting goals and achieving them. I got really miserable. I got to a point where I was a pretty hardcore alcoholic, and I couldn't figure out why buying all the things that I had and having the home that I had and just all the stuff that they said would make me happy. You know, it's the same story you hear a lot with many different people that start going on a solo journey or an entrepreneur journey. I ended up starting traveling, which is kind of how we're connected through this community. And it opened me up to the possibilities of different cultures and experiences around the world. I started interviewing people all around the world on creativity and what was making them successful. And I took those principles that were kind of overlapping with all of these people and applied them to my life to see if I could make changes to go from these rock bottom moments I was having to maybe getting a chance to travel or do something that I actually love for a living. And I ended up starting businesses, shutting them down, starting more stuff, trying really hard, selling everything I had, and eventually some things caught. And I was able to leave my career job and move across the country and start traveling the world. And I haven't done an immense amount of traveling, but I've been to about 20 countries in the last 4 years, which was pretty remarkable for me. And I look to continue to do that. So I am the co-founder of Rage Create, and we make affirmation decks. But mainly what an affirmation to most of us is a statement, right? And to me, affirmations are so much more. It's actually a system. It's a way of life. And so in this call, I want to get into the system of how to align affirmations to your lifetime core values and how each of those things work together to actually allow you to bring a seated vision to life with emotion and grit and all the hard stuff that comes with it. So thinking about calm, I guess in the beginning, I would like for you all just to think about what does calm mean to you in relation to affirmations? Because affirmations can be used as like, you know, everything is at peace internally or whatever. And that can mean that it can be very calming. But when I think of calm, I think of less stress, right? More clarity, more abundance and resources for support, more confidence, passion and creativity. If there's anything else that you all are thinking of as far as what leads to being calm, you can throw them out there as well if you're on your mic. But, we're all born to create, and it's a power that we share with the gods. And so ultimately, if you come down to what calm is, to be able to bring a source of peace into your life and to be able to truly be calm, then ultimately you have to be living with passion. And you have to be living with passion by creating things, because that's why you're here. So creating with passion is essentially what calm is to me. Because when you create with passion, you have less stress, you have more clarity, you have more abundance of resources that show up to support you. You have more confidence. It's solidified. Your strength is solidified. You have more happiness, and your peace flows more freely. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel pain or struggle or battle depression or get confused at times, because this journey in life is not about avoiding those things. It's about the energy that you put out into the world and what you get back. So the energy that you give out into the world is the same energy that you're also going to receive. So if you think about, say you have a basket, right? Your basket of life, and it's equally balanced by universal law to be light and dark. That means that if you put good out into the world from your basket, if you take good or light or help or service to others out of your basket and you put it into the world has to replace the misbalance in the basket with more good and light and service, because that's what's going to balance your basket back out between good and bad. If you put bad things out into the world from that side of your basket, then you have a hole in your basket that needs more bad to be filled back into it. And that's what the world's going to push back into your basket. Does that make sense to everyone so far? The energy that you give out into the world is what you will also receive. So how much good are you putting out into the world in your hours, in your days, in your months, and in your years? How much space are you creating in your basket for new light to pour in, as opposed to how much complaining you were doing or how much living in fear you're doing because maybe what the media is pounding down your throat, or how much are you putting yourself down because of a feature you don't like about yourself, thus creating more space for the negativity to replace the negativity that you're releasing into the world. So how do affirmations play into this? It's easy to think of them as woo-woo, because they are little dreams, they're little sayings that seem so magical and perfect, but they rarely actually come true. Like we can say, I have $1 million, or I love the way my body looks. But when I say I have $1 million, I don't truly believe it, because I don't. And in the back of my head, because I don't truly believe it, that's not going to manifest for me. I actually feel a little bit of resistance, and it actually starts to make me feel bad that I don't have more abundance in my life. This is an affirmation that can be worked on to be perfect, but in its current state, it's actually not very effective. At the end of this call, we're going to look into how to take your affirmation statements and make them effective, which is what that was an example of. But first, I want to look at affirmations as a system in itself. Is there anyone here that's using affirmations in a systematic way at all? That could be like, it could just be anything.
But do vision boards count? I don't know. I'm using affirmations with vision boards and then with my journaling.
It does. It is a part of a system, right? Because you're putting more than one thing together, and it's a common goal that you're working towards, which is it's more than just saying, say if I have my vision board that has a Sprinter van on it, which I've had on there for a couple of years. If a couple of years ago, I just wrote down, I have a Sprinter van on a notebook somewhere, and then I said it a few times, and then I returned to it every once in a while and said it again, it would not have been near as powerful as having it on my vision board also. So that's part of a system. Now, let's start with just the definition of an affirmation. If you actually look up affirmation, the definition is the action or process of affirming something or being affirmed. So the key part of that is action or process. So when you affirm something, you have to take action and you have to include a process. The second definition is emotional support or encouragement. So you have to involve your emotions. You have to want to feel encouraged to bring these affirmations into life. Now, you might have heard me say before anywhere else that like life isn't about what happens to you, right? It's about how you choose to react when it happens. It's about finding the silver lining and all the icky stuff and using it as motivation and fuel to break your habit of hesitation and move towards the life that you want to affirm, the life that you're calling in with your love internally. And that usually always has to start with self-love. What you're reflecting internally is what you're going to reflect into the world. Oh, I just got a echo. I think it stopped though. So I want to show you I want to show everyone here, if you're open to receiving it, the exact system that I use to brainstorm and plan and manifest my visions into reality. And then after that, I want to get into how to craft effective affirmations that you can actually bring to life, because both of these things in mass will help you be calm and find peace and passion and creativity and really be in alignment with what you truly want to bring to life. And it's all anchored internally. So if anyone has any questions so far, I'm open to that before I get into going over the overview of what we're going to be talking about. I might share my screen here too in a second, if that works. So Deb, I can't my screen's gone. Oh wait, here we go. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen. How do I do it?
Press this share screen button at the bottom, the green one.
Oh, it's under more for me.
Ah, okay.
Okay, hold on. Share. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Now we can.
Can you see it now?
Yepers.
Okay. So we're going to go can you see this thing I'm moving around to?
Yep.
It's kind of blocking stuff. This is the Sweet-Ass Affirmation Vision Chakra System. It can also be known as a totem. And the things that we're going to get into pretty deeply over the next hour all come in alignment with these principles. So at the very top, it's prime flow. And if you think about prime flow, which we'll get into deeper in a second, this is when you are living in flow consciousness. It's when you're waking up with ease, you're following your intuition, you're surrendering to all the conflicts that come your way, and you're not allowing chaotic or dark things to absorb your energy. It's a really hard place to get to. It's not like you have to be in complete enlightenment, but even living your life in a fraction of prime flow is going to drastically open up your ability to affirm your visions and bring them into life. Then we're going to get into core values, core life values, and sort of shape these visions into a couple sentences that are really going to become the anchor of every single thing that you do, from the bottom of your daily habits all the way up to your long-term goals. If they're not in alignment with your core values, then you shouldn't be doing them at all. So the most important thing that you can start with is the core life values. And then we're going to move into an affirmation mantra, which is essentially a really beautiful way to put yourself inside of a visual scenario of what it looks like and what it feels like to live out your core life values. And then the rest are pretty straightforward. What long-term visions are in alignment with those two things? What short-term bursts are in alignment with your long-term visions, which are in alignment with your affirmation mantra, which are in alignment with your core values? What daily actions are we taking? And then what supportive habits and affirmation statements are you using as often as possible to bring these things to life? If you imagine a line just going straight up through here, like this is the floor, like your root, and it's just going to go all the way up to your crown, which is the prime flow. It's just like the chakra system, which is why I was so fancy enough to make it look beautiful like it is. Actually, that was like 20 minutes in Canva, but I did a good job. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. I'm back. Okay. Oh, damn it. I have to share my screen again. if you all know me, this is pretty common. I want to have anyone here heard of the boob of limitation? I want to start by talking about limitation. Share screen. Whoops. Okay, there we go. So moving into your affirmations, you have to kind of know what forces are working against you first. This is what I call the boob of limitation. In life, you have two forces that are pretty much working against your ability to bring yourself from your internal manifestations to what the prime flow is. And the prime flow is basically this area outside of your physical limits. It's peace, it's eternal freedom, it's unconditional love. It's these things that seem so hard to attain, but the more we can attain them on fraction, the better it can get. We live most of our lives in this little comfort zone circle. And this circle is the boundary of your self-imposed limits. You can see all these little gremlins floating around, and these are all here to sort of stop you from moving the direction to expanding your self-imposed limits upon your physical limitations. So, creativity, empowerment, self-love, experience, opportunity, success, confidence, purpose, all of these things are going to help you move your self-imposed limit past your physical limits. An example of a physical limit would be, I can't dunk a basketball despite me being like an ostrich with my height because I just don't have ups. I can't jump from the earth and land on the moon yet because it's just not physically possible. I can't have a baby because I don't have the proper parts. These are physical limits that can get in the way, but we don't often use physical limits as excuses for creativity or passion or drive in business, although sometimes they do come into play, but they really don't have an effect because there's certain energetic tricks that you can do to go past them regardless, just based on how you're managing a situation with your reactions that we were talking about earlier. Self-imposed limits. You think you can't do it. You don't believe in yourself. You're scared, you're aching, you're afraid of what others will think. You're afraid of failing again, afraid of disappointment, afraid of succeeding, which is a huge one. Like, we're really more scared of our power than we are of our limitations. We don't have habits in place to optimize these things. And so we stay in our comfort zone. We're kept in this bubble right here by all the fear and procrastination, and mainly hesitation gremlins. Hesitation is maybe the meanest gremlin of all because we've been built into the society that teaches us how to hesitate all the time. With all these layers, like everything that you try to do, you're going to get a text message that breaks your focus. You're going to see an ad that breaks your focus. Why aren't there more things in the world that put you back into focus in just a couple seconds? Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing the screen. So let's talk about the chakra system. And I'm going to get into sort of some exercises with you all so you can start brainstorming these things. We talked about prime flow. That's the state of creativity and passion and flow fueled by your intuition. It's the ability to surrender and to let go, because if you think about it, life really is a series of letting goes until the greatest let go of all, right? It's removing all these things that we think we're attached to, whether it's our physical belongings or our relationships. Eventually, we have to let go of these things until the greatest let go of all, which is obviously passing in death. There's no getting around it. And the more that we can understand that surrendering and letting go is valuable, the less trouble we're going to have, the less resistance we're going to have, the less fear we're going to have. So let's look at creating your core life values first, which is what comes under prime flow. This is the set of moral and creative principles that you wish to embody in this lifetime. It's the North Star for your affirmation approach. Every habit and goal and decision and affirmation statement that you're going to make should be in alignment with your core values. So some of the questions you can ask yourself for this are, what do you wish to experience in this life? What are your ideal surroundings and environment? Who's around you? Who are you spending time with? What does it look like from a natural perspective? Where are you spending time in your creative space? Where are you spending time in your relationship space? What purpose do you wish to bring to this planet? What lights you up? What gifts do you have that you could share with the world? What is the secret passion that you have that you're too shy to share?
Lots of questions.
Yeah, these are just things to generate ideas. And what kinds of people, places, and experience to get your blood pumping. You're going to see why all of these questions can have an impact in a second when I give you examples of what my core values are. But in the core values section, and these types of things take time for all of you beautiful people that are on here. I don't expect you to be able to craft these on this call, but more so take mental notes in your own space to be able to go back through and work these processes out, because it's going to take you time. It's going to take a lot of thinking to get it right, and that's okay. But what you can do now is, if you do have some ideas, start jotting them down to help stimulate your mind. I'm going to give you some examples of my core values, and then I'm going to give you a minute or two to sort of think about maybe if you want to write down some notes or something without me talking over you, to think about some of the directions you can move with your core values. So I have about 8 core values. I'm only going to read 4 or 5 of them because of time restraints, and they're not that long, but I want you to really pay attention to the different angles that I put into them. So some of these I created 4 years ago. Some of them I've kind of modified along the way. Your core values are going to grow with you in space. So they're not always going to be exactly how you started them out to be, but they're going to become, more enlightened as you become more enlightened. So I value passive income and financial freedom through writing, creating, speaking, and sharing my gifts with the world, because money is an energy that allows me to expand all aspects of my freedom lifestyle. I value optimal health and brain performance for me, my friends, and my family, so that we can experience an expansive state of love and connectivity until we are ready to surrender and part ways with life. I value freedom of time so that I organize my life with excitement, creativity, and momentum to help myself and others expand on a much larger scale. I value continued exploration into mystery and the unknown through travel, discomfort, relationships, and education, so that I may always be growing into a higher, more aware version of myself. And then I value unconditional love and truth within all aspects of my life. So those examples kind of show different angles that I'm coming from. But if you notice, every single one of them starts with I value, and they're in the present tense, but they also have a why statement involved with them. And that's going to be a common theme throughout your long-term goals and your short-term goals, and even your affirmation statements. You always want to do them in the present tense. And if you can, add a why statement onto them that is packed with emotion and feelings if possible, because that's what's really going to help your subconscious be like, yeah, I'm in on this too. So if you want to take a couple minutes to just jot down some notes, maybe I'll play the didgeridoo while you do it, something like that. Do you usually just like go silent during
We do.
journaling time?
I've tried music in the past, but we don't need if
No,
we just
I was just kidding about the digi.
We have a question here that Jennifer was talking about, and so she was just talking about that. Jennifer, if you wanted to share those insights in a few minutes, you're welcome to, or if you wanted to unmute now and just kind of work through them, we're happy to do that with you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know.
Chat? What up, Jen?
Hi.
Look at you.
Yeah. Well, I thought that this was a really interesting thing that you were doing today, so I wanted to jump on and watch and learn, because I have just I've let my self-care just fall by the wayside, and I've had just some really bad stuff happen lately. I've had a friend pass away, and when I heard you were talking about affirmations, that's one thing I've never tried. You know, I've meditated and everything else, but I've never tried affirmations. And like, I'm in a spot where, you know, I can make myself or break myself now. So when you just said people are scared of success, now I'm thinking, should I even waste my time on this? Is this real? What are you doing? You know, like I'm already sabotaging almost.
Yeah, that's how it is.
I'm
You know,
a
the
little
battle of the
lost right now.
Gremlins. Yeah, and that's why you're here, and it's perfect. And this system will help you, starting with the core values and just understanding what direction you want to move in. And more importantly, the surrendering and letting go of all the emotions and the chaos that are triggering you, because you're infinitely supported. You know that. And if you have questions throughout this process, just ping them in or pop in whenever you feel free. And we can catch up after the call if you want to. Are you in Ohio right now?
Oh yeah, I'm at home. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining. This is going to be good. I think it'll help.
I'm good. I expect it will. So I think there's a lot of smart folks on here. It's just good to be amongst you guys. So I'm happy.
Good to have you here.
Thanks.
I was thinking about when you did that meditation in Bulgaria next to me. It was like one of the coolest things I've witnessed. So maybe you can return to that meditation too, and that'll help you as well.
You know, I see that sometimes, and I always think about that. I'm like, God, I don't know if I have it. I don't know if I could have done it if I knew that that's what it was. If I knew that was, you know, I don't know if I would have had the guts, but that was a great experience.
Well, it sounds like a great one to step into now, because it's a Rise of the Phoenix meditation, and that's going to help you shed some of these hardships that you're holding on to. So you should try it. It's not going to be easy, but it'll be really, really clearing in space for you, and it'll help you become more calm for sure.
That's what I need. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so now everyone had a chance to maybe write down some ideas for your core values. I'm going to give you a couple more tips as to what you can take with you to generate ideas for your core values, that I think if you're in a position where you're not really sure, these will probably help you. The easiest way to do this, and it's the main way that I've done it from the beginning, is to create an I don't want list. So put a timer on or whatever, number your paper from 1 to 20. I would get a blank piece of paper out and put a column down the middle. And I would write down, this is totally like, you can do this in your own way. Like everything is just a craft of yourself, but this is how I do it. And I think it can help if you use your own modified version or whatever. But in the left column, or if you want to just be a rebel or a nonconformist and start in the right column, that's cool too. I'm always a fan. Write down everything that you can think of that you don't want. Don't edit yourself. Just flow it out like crazy. Everything that you do not want in life, write it down. And this could really bring up a lot of emotions for you, but this is the tooth that's going to really sink in when you're trying to come up with the things that you do want. So for example, 4 or 5 years ago, when I started to do this process, one of the things I wrote was, I don't want a traditional job that requires me to be at an office every day for a certain amount of time, right? I don't want a relationship that is full of arguments or dishonesty or miscommunication. These are just 2 examples. But you can get as detailed as you want. Who's surrounding you? You know, what are you doing with your time? These are things that you can consider. So write those down in the column on the left. And then next to it, write down why you don't want those things. And the why is really, really, really important. So that'll be the first part of helping you understand how you can generate your core values. The second thing would be to take that list after you have your don't want list, and you're going to start to make a do want list. So what is the opposite of what you don't want? That's the easiest way to figure out what you do want. A lot of us can be like, oh, it's so confusing. I don't know. There's so many things that I want. And when you do your do not want list, you can figure out really quickly the things that are most important to you that you do want. So what's the opposite of what you don't want? If you don't want to be in debt and living paycheck to paycheck, maybe you want an expansive financial abundance to pay down your debt or to free yourself of debt.
It's funny that you said the, Heath, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say it's funny that you said the reason why. On our Facebook page, Mira said, if we don't have a why, it is not important, I think. So she was saying like, we need a why. And it was just like when she posted that right when you were talking about why, like the why is really important. So I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, we're all one collective consciousness, right? So she's picking it up at the same time. It's totally, totally cool. I was actually, just a side story real quick. I was in a waterfall playing a couple of days ago, and I've had the honor of learning from this remarkable, he's incredible. His name's Tata Eric out in Mount Shasta, and he wrote a book called People Made of Honey, and it's about the transition of humanity from the people made of corn into the people made of honey. The people made of corn has 4 different colors: yellow, red, black, and white. It's separatism, correct? As we move into the people made of honey, everything becomes one and we become collective. And as I was talking to my friend Holly about it throughout the weekend, we were playing in this waterfall and I thought I saw some trash. So I went to go pick it up underwater. I saw this purple label and I pulled it out and it was a full jar of honey. So the universe plays with you the more you open up to it. And it's things like that you'll start to open up throughout this process and you'll get to play it. That's a really extreme version, but I have 20 to 30 crazy stories like that of things that I picked up in my head and then had them appear physically. But yeah, it's a why, right? So when you write out the things that you do want in life, in the column next to them, write why you want them as well. It's incredibly important because the why is what you tie your emotions into when bringing affirmations to life. It's what you tie your emotions and your passion into when bringing your goals to life. If you don't have a why, and if you're not emotionally charged or connected to your why, then your drive to bring your core values to life will be corrupt and it'll be much harder to achieve. And you can pretty much just say in this constant recycling of, oh, I see what I want to be, but I can't quite get there. You know, there's dreams you have sometimes where you're trying to get to some place and you just can't get there. I feel like a lot of people have had those dreams. I get them all the time. It's that process. Like there's no why. So once you have your do want list, you don't really need to do anything else with your don't want list unless you want to go back to it for reference. But an effective method from this point on, and say you have 20 items on your do want list, what you're going to want to do is go down and rate them in the order from 1 to 20, or if it's easy to do, circle your top 5. Sometimes it's hard because in between that like 5 to 12 zone, it can get pretty, or maybe the 3 to 12 zone, it can get like, I don't know which one I want more. You have to make a decision to rate them from 1 to 5. These are the things that you're going to create your core values around. Okay, the 5 things that you want the most are what going to help you create your core values around, plus the whys that are involved with them. What's really important is to recognize that the other 15 things that are on your do want list, they really quickly become the fuck no list because they are a little bit lower hanging fruit than the top 5. And you're likely to kind of like pull away from the effectiveness and the hardship of the things you want the most to try to go after the things that you sort of want the most because they're easier to obtain. It becomes a form of a resistance that you don't want to play with. And it's something that we all do subconsciously and consciously. And if you can be very aware that you're paying attention to the top 5 and you move the other ones to the side and you don't do anything with them, there may be a time in the future to bring those back into play, if that makes sense. So using the examples I gave as instigation, after this call or while we're doing this call, if you have it in your head, you might as well go ahead and write it down. Start to work on your 5 core values to use as your guiding North Star. And remember to include I value at the beginning. You can replace the word value with something else if you want. Value, there's a lot of different words that can be used in place of that. And make sure that you include your why at the end. And you'll come up with a good handful of core values. You could have anywhere from 3 to 20, but ultimately I think somewhere in that 5 to 8 range works the best, because when you start to craft your goals, you don't want to have too many core values that you're working towards. So I really think 5 is a really good number to stick with if you can do it. But you're going to want to include personal life, business life, travel. You can have different areas. You can have a core value for your projects. You can have a core value for the way you are in relationships, things like that. So expand it to the entirety of your life and not just your business type stuff, not just your personal life. Does that make sense? Everyone good still? Cool. All right. So the next step in this process is the vision mantra for the core values. How will it look and feel to live these core values out? What kind of emotions will be present when you live these values? And when you're surrounded by this type of life, are you excited? Are you ecstatic? Are you humbled because you get to hang out with all these beautiful people and work on the things that you love? The core mantra is going to be something that you have to craft after you come up with your core values. And it's going to be pretty much in paragraph form. And you're going to write it out the first time, but then as you start reciting it out loud over time, it's going to melt into a pretty fluid thing that you can change stuff in and out of. So you can bring new ideas in and out of it, but it still kind of stays as one big foundation of what your core values are. So who is around you? Again, where are you at? What are you spending your time doing? What are you experiencing? And ultimately, make sure that you're including all of your emotions and how it makes you feel. So I'm going to give you an example of what the mantra I'm currently using is. And it's because I feel like examples ultimately can help you understand what I'm trying to explain to you if I'm not doing a great job of explaining. But while I'm giving you this example of a mantra, you can also start thinking about what yours could be so that you can craft it after we're done with this call. So my mantra right now is, I allow $6,000 per month to flow in and out of my life. And I'm so grateful for the support of this energy for myself and my family. I have made space for and released my debt as it no longer serves me. My heart is so full because I get to wake up every day and work from my outdoor playhouse / office right next to my flourishing greenhouses, covered in solar-powered, energy-efficient panels in my low, zero-waste home surrounding me. I've got hot and cold plunge tanks that I can go through the cycle of my body. I'm inverting myself every day that I wake up to get the blood flowing from my feet down to my head as opposed to from my head to my feet. I melt when I look at my partner, so intelligent and full of love, as we creatively collaborate on projects and products that help others discover their unconditional love and purpose in this world. I feel fully charged and challenged and exploding with purpose. And as I look outside on the farm, the beautiful sacred land, my beautiful blue-eyed daughter runs barefoot through the fields with my puppy, Sachitananda, free range as fuck, just like the chickens. My online businesses and writing career is thriving, and I'm so grateful for freedom and abundance, which allows us to travel and create from anywhere, whenever we want, including inside of our camper van, next to a glorious waterfall that tastes like heaven. We always have enough money to explore the world freely, expanding our culture and our spirituality. I am truly alive and full of unconditional love, truth, and serenity. And so it is. So that's a lot packed in, right? But that is the vision of what I am trying to affirm and bring into my life, and what I am affirming and bringing into my life. Pieces of this have already come in. Now, when you talk through that, do I have a life partner? No. Do I have a farm with all these things? No, I don't. But I truly have started believing that this is part of my truth. And now I am able to, use affirmations and goals to move in that direction. So all of this kind of sums up the core values that I have in a more sentimental way, if that makes sense. So make a note to really work on your mantra, because your mantra is what you are going to be using in your meditations, when you wake up in the morning and when you go to sleep and when you're taking a shower. The more you can talk yourself through your mantra, the more you're going to start believing that it's real, and the less resistance you're going to have when you're setting goals and affirmations that are in alignment with this mantra and your core values. Does that make sense? Can I get a hell yeah?
Oh yeah.
We usually go for thumbs ups here in Funcom.
Yeah, no,
Thumbs
it's all good. So I just want to make sure everyone's on the page and this is making sense. Sometimes things that come out of my brain can be a little bit intense, but this is really a remarkable process. If you work through it yourself, you're going to find out that it works really well.
I want to comment that I liked how detailed. It's so very detailed.
Right,
so
and there's emotions.
Yeah.
The more detailed you can be, the better. Like, what are you tasting? What are you eating? And yeah, thanks. Do
you write that all out and then put it on like a card somewhere that you're seeing until you've memorized it? Is that how you're doing that?
The first time I wrote that was not as big and not as detailed, and it's grown since then. And I wrote it out in a journal, and I had it next to my affirmation statements that I review every morning. And as I started reading it, it becomes really powerful. And if you have bathtub crayons, it's great to like write down affirmations on your bathtub walls like you were a child, and then also close your eyes and speak your mantra out loud. It's really powerful. It's really powerful stuff. It's a law of attraction, and it's really, really, it's not just woo, because you're going to start taking action in alignment with these things, and that's what brings things to life. So yes, writing it down in whatever way works for you. Some people like apps, some people like paper and pen like me. I like physical stuff that I can touch and hold. So there's, on my altar, I have it. In my notebook, I have it, but it's also memorized in my head now to where I can just roll it out whenever I want. And when you're feeling anxious and when you're feeling stressed, reciting your mantra is going to bring that calm back into your life. So it's a really important thing. If there's nothing else that you take away from this call, take away the mantra, because it's going to naturally trigger you to take action towards it. Okay, let's move into the long-term visions that we were showing on the little chakra chart earlier. Long-term visions are what would appear on your vision board per se. They're measurable goals that you work toward over an extended period of time to help you obtain the lifestyle that supports your mantra and your core values. So when you think about your mantra and your core values, what actionable goals come to mind that will help you get there? You don't have to have a timestamp on your long-term visions. It can seem really far away, or it can seem doable in a couple weeks. Long-term visions they're a sliding scale, right? So an example, for the core value that I had of I value passive income and financial freedom through writing, creating, speaking, and sharing my gifts with the world, because money is an energy that allows me to expand all aspects of my freedom lifestyle. A couple long-term goals that I could use, or that I did use per se when I was starting with that core value, was I interview creative people around the world to see what habits and practices contribute to their success, and I share the results through a podcast. I did that through the Artsy Now podcast when I started. That was a long-term goal that I had that I could take action on immediately in baby steps, that ultimately was on my vision board that started to come to life slowly and surely. Deb, when you had the vision for Find Calm here, you started to take action towards it. You didn't know what the timetable would be to get it rolling. It's an example of a long-term goal that you had at one point, right? It's going to stick with you long-term. eventually it might come to a day where it turns into something else, or it's run its course and you decide to move into a different space. But this is an example. Another one would have been, I am creating a side business that generates an extra $300 a week so I can work towards leaving my job. That was a sheer reality for me. How can I make just an extra $300 per week so that I can work towards, not saying quit my job yet, but work towards it? I had no idea how long that was going to take. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to write properly. I didn't know how to market anything. I didn't know much about creating websites. So at one point, these were long-term visions for me that seem so far in the past now, but that's how it works. And then a simple version is I have written and released my first publication, right? As a writer, at one point, I was like, oh, it would be cool to make something to put out into the world. I didn't know what it was going to be. That ended up becoming the Sweet-Ass Journal to Develop Your Happiness Muscle in 100 Days, which was stemmed off of the hundreds of interviews that I was doing with creative entrepreneurs around the world. So a few things that you can do to generate ideas for your long-term visions. You can do this while we're talking, of course, but also take notes to do this afterwards. And you want to always make sure, again, that your long-term visions are in alignment with your core values and your mantra, right? Hell yes versus hell no. Has anyone ever done that before? Brainstorm, splatter. This is such an effective thing, right? It's similar to what we did with the I do and don't want list, but it's very simple and it's very effective. So write this note down. For each one of your core values, get out a piece of paper or a blank document on your magic computer box or your BlackBerry if you're still rolling with one of those ballers like Ryan is, and write one of your core values that you come up with at the top. So once you have your 5 core values, you're going to do this for each one of your core values. Without filtering or editing yourself at all, get a little timer out. Whether you have a physical one or I have this howling wolf timer on my computer that I really love. And I do like to do these lists with pen and paper, but it also, if you're kind of computer-y like me, sometimes writing on the computer can get a lot more out. You could just flow a little bit better. So whatever way works for you. But set a timer for 5 minutes and then do a massive brain dump of ideas for goals that are actionable relating to each one of your core values. So say you just set your timer for 5 to 10 minutes, say 10 minutes, because once you start going, things are going to start popping in and it's going to just go and go. You don't want to edit yourself. Again, just let it all fart out. My grandmother, Ruth, she always rips farts and it's natural. And this is what you want to do when you're brainstorming. You want to fart it all over the page because it's natural. So
loved the analogy.
Yeah, she's amazing, by the way. I'm really sad that I haven't been able to see her because of she's 97 and just precautions. But to all the elders out there, we love you. We're holding space for you. So once you have your goal ideas for each one of your core values, say you come up with 20 different goals for each one of your core values that are actionable, that means you're going to have 100 different goals that you're looking at in totality that's moving towards your mantra and your core values as a whole. You have to get these narrowed down to what you're going to focus on. Okay, so the same as we did with the I do and don't want list, you're going to rank these goals in order of importance and or effectiveness to move you towards your core value lifestyle, if that makes sense. So say you have 20 goals that you did for your first core value, mark them 1 through 20, and then you're going to circle the top 5. Everything else becomes a hell no. Those top 5 become a hell yes. You can really do top 3 if you want at a time because it's less overwhelming. I mean, if you think about it, if you have 5 core values and you have 3 goals for each that are long-term, that's plenty. It might only be 1. It might only be 2 for each core value, but pick a number and stick to it and make sure that they are the most effective and important things that you can be working towards to bring those to life. That often means that they're the hardest things and they're the things that scare you the most. They're the things that give you the most anxiety. the obstacle is the way, right? To beat down those slimy resistance gremlin fucks, you got to be willing to go in to the dirt. And you can't reach, the flower blooms in heaven without reaching super deep into hell with your roots. So you have to face your shadows. You have to be okay with that dark side of your basket. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard. But as soon as you start doing it, it's going to unleash so much more creativity and passion and belief and confidence in yourself than you could ever imagine. So you've gotten to the point where you have a nice road path to create your long-term visions that are in alignment with your mantras, right? And your core values. You have your top 1 to 5 hell yeses for each long-term vision, or for each core value. And those goals are going to be your long-term goals that you're going to structure everything else that we're about to talk about underneath. So the next step in that process is, if you have a couple of long-term goals, let's say one of my long-term goals is to write a book. I am writing this Never Stop Peaking book. I'm going to attach a why statement to it. And that's going to be my long-term goal. I'm going to put it on my vision board. I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to put my book on it, and I'm going to stick it on my vision board. That's a long-term goal. I don't know what time frame it's going to come to life. What can I do with my short-term burst to try to get a big chunk of that into reality within a certain amount of time? So in between your long-term goals and your short-term bursts, that's when you're going to start tracking metrics to bring things to life. That's when you're going to start giving yourself deadlines to make sure that you're actually accomplishing things. The deadline is a really, really important thing. If any of you have used the journaling system that I put out a couple of years ago, we do everything in 100-day bursts. Your bursts do not have to be 100 days. They can be 30 days. They can be 20 days. There's a lot of different stuff out there that says one is better than the other. For me, 100 days works really, really well because I can track each day by 1%. And I use a specific tracker to do that. I'm waking up every day and I'm initialing my short-term goals and my habits, and I'm working towards them, and I'm checking out at night as well over a 100-day period. But what are 3 to 5 visions that you think you can accomplish over the next 100 days, if we're using that as an example, that will move you towards your long-term goals that you're working on, that will move you towards your core values and your mantra lifestyle, right? It's pretty simple. I don't think there's any confusion about that.
Does anybody have any questions before we go on, Keith? I wanted to just check about questions. I know it's right up at 8 o'clock, so I wanted to see if we can keep continuing, if you guys want to hang on after 8 o'clock, but just to see if there's any questions from anybody with all the things, because there's a lot of stuff we went through. I know that I use a lot of what Heath has been talking about. We talked about vision boards, and I had my vision board, and I do a monthly one, but I think I'm going to do a end of the year one, and using some of what I wrote down here while I was workshopping my ideas. We talked about the vision board workshop a few times with the Find Calm Here community. So I feel like this is a great way to combine those two activities together.
Yeah, having a little trackable hand journal that you take around that has your short-term goals on them, and then knowing that those are in alignment with whatever's on your vision board, whatever's on your mantra, is really the simplest way, I think, to keep them separated. Because if you're looking at all your long-term goals and your short-term goals all in one space, which works for some people. I mean, I've seen maniacs with 1,000 Post-it notes on their walls, and it's a system, right? And it works. That would overwhelm me a little bit, so I like to keep them split. But I know that as long as you're writing them in alignment with your hierarchy of goals, then you know that they're going to move you towards. So you want to make sure that you're doing the most effective and important ones, but that's generally a pretty easy step. What is right in front of you that can be accomplished? So say my long-term goal is writing that book. One of my short-term bursts would be doing the outline, creating the first draft, finding an editor to start reading through it, these types of things. So Those are processes of at least a couple days at a time. It comes down to the day at the next step. And this is something I talk about a lot. It's the daily note card method. And it is a way to really hone your focus in each day to what you really want to accomplish. And essentially what you're going to do is just every single day when you set your morning up, and I hope that you've created some sort of like space where you get a little bit of time alone to actually start your day, to think, to journal, to do a little exercise, whatever it may be. It's really effective to do. You're going to write down the 2 most momentous actions that you can take today to progress towards those short-term bursts. So whether that's calling around to find an editor or typing out 1,000 words of my draft, these are things that I'm going to prioritize over everything else that needs to be done. And of course, you can do things quickly and then move on to some more stuff if you want. Some days you're going to feel a little bit overwhelmed and sick, and maybe the best thing for you to do for the day in your daily action is to take a nap. Sometimes I put take a nap as my daily action because I know that's going to move me closer to my dreams, because I'm not going to be so fatigued. I'm not going to be so anxious. And when I'm not fatigued and anxious, I have a better energetic level to move through. So don't be insanely hard on yourself, but make sure that you're doing really important, effective things with your days. So get a note card, or if you want to use your journal, that works. I've found for some reason the Earl Nightingale method with just using a note card works the best for me. You're going to write today's date on one side, and you're going to write the 2 actions that you're going to take for the day. And then on the back of the card, you're going to write one of your affirmation statements or your goals that you're working towards. It's up to you. You can draw a picture of it if you want. And then you're going to write the date that you want that to come into reality by. So it could be the date of your short-term burst deadline, which is often what I use. If I'm working towards 3 or 4 short-term bursts that are due, 100 days out, then it might say like January 20th that I'm writing down every single day on that note card, to remind myself that these daily actions that I'm doing are going to bring something really beautiful and brilliant into life around January 20th when it comes through. Is that pretty clear for everyone? The daily note card method?
I put a link in there. I'm not sure if that's the exact link that you're talking about with the goal cards. I wasn't sure what that what you were referencing there.
I was just referencing like a note card. I literally just buy a pack of note cards.
Oh, well, there is an Earl Nightingale goal card actually, which looks kind of interesting.
So the idea for the note card originally came from a speech that he did, which is, if you haven't listened to it, go to YouTube. It's called The Strangest Secret. It's just a talk. It's really, really moving and good. It's like 30 minutes. And he just talks about the difference between people that bring things to life with their dreams and people who don't. And it's really, really powerful. So that's where it came from. And then, maybe somebody made a note card that's based off that. Okay. We're doing pretty good. I know we're at the hour mark. I think we can get through the next stuff pretty quickly. The last step in this totem is supportive habits and affirmations. These are the habits and the foundations of the things that you're doing every single day that are in support of all of the stuff that we just talked about, right? If you have habits in place that are supporting your daily actions, which support your bursts, which support your long-term goals, which support your mantras, then like what's going to happen? Those things are going to come to life, right? They're going to come into reality and existence. And when you're sitting there one day and you're like, oh my God, that mantra is actually my life now, it's going to feel really cool, but it's not going to be a surprise to you because you have this set up so perfectly to lead you there. There's no distraction. There's no road that goes astray. What you focus your attention on is what comes in to your life. Remember, what kind of energy you put out into the world is what you get back. It really, 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 really works. And it's really important. If I take a single step every single day towards Tennessee, where I'm from, eventually I'm going to get there, unless there's some sort of physical limitation that comes in and stops me. But eventually I'm going to get there one step at a time. It's the same principle. Little by little, you can climb mountains, right? So supportive habits and affirmations. I'm going to show you a couple tools that you can use to create and track these types of things. I'm going to share my screen again. And then we're going to get into how to craft affirmation statements with effectiveness so that you can use those in support of everything that you're doing. And it's very similar to what we just talked about with the mantras.
Are you guys all good to stay for a few more minutes? Do you guys?
Anybody that needs to bounce can totally bounce. I'm going to show you some tools and give you a place where you can download them if you want to use them. And then, yeah, we'll get into the exercise.
Cool. Thank y'all for hanging on. Appreciate you being here, everybody. Stephanie's back.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone has different types of habits. What's interesting about habits is you can either work to break bad habits or you can work to make new good habits. And they're both perfect. And so let me share my screen. Some of you might already have these if you've been involved with Rage Create at all. Not the limitation boob. Okay. Okay, we're back to this. We went through all of these, right? When you're creating your habits, like we mentioned briefly, sacred space, creating a sacred space and actually using it every day is an amazing habit. Meditation is an amazing habit. Walking outside with your shoes off and absorbing antioxidants that can destroy electromagnetic frequencies in your body and reduce inflammation is an incredible habit. There are so many things you can do. Spending time with your children if you have them, calling your mother every day. There are all these things you can do that actually help benefit your mindset and your enthusiasm and your motivation, but you have to decide what those are for yourself. What habits you have in place, just make sure that they are in alignment with all the things that we talked about all the way up to your core values. This is a tracker that you can get, and this is just totally just a platform I use. You can put the habits that you're working on here. Say if I want to write every single day, you can print this out actually and just write them down. But if I want to write daily, 1,000 words, every single day I can actually just print this. Well, font's too big, but I can print this out and just put on my fridge or my bathroom mirror or whatever, and I can check to make sure that I'm paying attention to it, right? Because if we're not aware that we're working on the habits, maybe we forget, and then we get into a 2-day, 3-day, 4-day spurt where we didn't do it. And then we're like, oh, there's too much resistance now. I feel ashamed that I'm not actually doing this. The more you see it, the more likely you are to do it. And the longer you get your streak going after 2, 3, 4 days, the easier it gets to keep that momentum going. This is just a very simple tool that you can download if you want, and use it to put some habits that you're trying to make or break and then track your progress. For your daily activities, this is a priority action matrix. So when you're trying to come up with the most important things to do with your projects or your days or your short-term bursts or your long-term goals, you can use this chart, which is loosely based off the Eisenhower method, to figure out what's the most important thing for you to be doing. And these things are really crucial for me being able to hone my focus because I'm a creative person and my head's it's just all over the place. I want to do like a billion things at once all the time. So what's important and what's urgent, these are the things that you want to focus on the most. And then what's not important, what's not urgent. As things come into your head, you can jot them in whatever box feels right. And you can have a different one of these sheets for each one of your core values. You can have a different one of these sheets for each one of your projects. You can have one for your home life. You can have one for your administrative life. But it helps you decide what the most important daily actions are going to be. And those are going to be the things that are obviously urgent and important at the same time. And then it kind of trickles out from there. And then I have another sheet that's just a batch task sheet. I don't have it open right now, but you can do this with a regular notebook. But if you go download these, you can get that as well. It's literally just a way for you to organize certain types of tasks together so that you can be more efficient when you're doing them. All these things lead to reduced stress, which lead to more peace, which lead to you being able to stay calm and affirm things that you want to bring into your life. So, that's really all I have for the system. This is from the foundation. I want to do a little review of it, just a little summary so that you guys kind of have a fresh exercise. If you want to take notes on this, this is what I was kind of reminding you to do throughout. Write down four core life values. And then create a mantra that describes your life in detail while you are living your core life values. And then write the top 5 long-term goals that support those core life values. Write the top 5 short-term bursts that support each long-term kind of grouping of goals towards your values. And then when it comes down to daily action, what 2 effective daily actions can you take today or tomorrow to help move towards affirming these goals in these short-term bursts? And then from the habit point of view, what habits can you make or break to help support your ability to accomplish these daily actions? And then you're going to want to write down 5 to 10 affirmation statements that you can recite often to help support the entirety of the system of the vision chakra. And these can really be related to personal points of view or business points of view. I'm going to pause just for a second to let you all think about those things if you want, or ask any questions that we may have. And then we're just going to go right into the last little part, which is how to craft an effective affirmation statement. If anyone's interested in learning that. It's not a complicated process, but it's something that's really important when you're writing out affirmations. So if you all want to stick around and do that, I'm totally down. But if anyone has any questions right now, we can open up for that as well.
I did want to just comment that I put your link to your resources page from your website in the chat bar, so people can grab that and check out those trackers that you were going over.
I don't think any of those trackers I just talked about are on there, but I'm going to put a link to my website's so outdated, Deb. I'm gonna put a link to where they can get those actual trackers.
Okay.
If I can figure out how to even comment in the chat, because I don't see any way to do it.
I know there was a YouTube link too. You had some YouTube videos about it, and I did post some things up in the community, in the Find Calm Here
so
community.
if you can type ragecreate.com/space-squid-bonus, that's the link that's going to take you to all the bonus material from the affirmation deck that I made. So it's going to give you all the digital cards for free. It's going to give you all the wallpaper packs for free to use on your phone and your laptop. It's going to give you all those trackers that I just talked about, and that gives you the gremlin key of where all the hidden gremlins are on the affirmation cards.
Squids, was it?
Space. I know if I could get to the chat, I don't know how to do it. It's like not showing up for me.
Do you see the little, I don't know what it looks like. You might have to go to more. Anyway, I'll find it. We'll get it to everybody in the Find Calm Here community.
I got it. Okay.
Priscilla,
right.
I wanted to just check in. I know, and Ryan and Jennifer are still here. How are you guys? Are you cool to hang out for a few more minutes? I think we'll wrap up in the next, 5-10 minutes, Heath?
I'm just going to go through an example of an affirmation that really isn't effective all the way through how to make it effective.
Yeah, that's fine. A few more minutes is okay.
Cool.
And if anyone has to bounce, there's no problem just to bounce off.
Yeah.
As long as you use pogo stick when you leave, bounce down your street, come to Portland and hang out with me, because I have no friends. In your undies. All right. Okay, you want to learn? I've been pretty good not like bringing in too much, ridiculousness. So
you have. I know you.
How to create an effective affirmation statement. And these are the affirmations that you can make your cards out of. These are the affirmations that you can write on your mirrors and put on, like a lot of times these go back down to self-love. Of course, they can be very strategic with business, but ultimately, if we can learn to love ourselves just unconditionally, it's very hard. We can all find things about ourselves that we don't like. Then we can pretty much do anything, because the internal what is internal is we reflect external. So traditional affirmations that we see tend to make bold claims that are dramatically different than your truth or your reality, which is why a lot of people say affirmations don't work. We talked a little bit about this at the beginning. when you have these kind of bold claims, your subconscious mind will resist statements like this because it cannot internalize them to be true. It cannot internalize it to be part of your truth. So how do you tell if an affirmation will work? And it's what we talked about earlier. Does it make you feel good when you say it? Does it make you feel uplifted or motivated when you say it? Or do you feel discomfort or resistance or anxiety or pessimism? Or maybe you feel nothing at all. But if you feel nothing at all, is that affirmation really effective for you? The words of an affirmation have zero power to change your life. That's true. The words by themselves of an affirmation have zero power to change your life. It's the emotion and the action that you put into your affirmations that are going to change your life. The purpose of an affirmation isn't to change something outside of yourself. It's to change the way that you feel internally about something so that you can be in the right mindset to bring it into life externally, if that makes sense. So when you really feel differently about something, you begin to think and believe differently about it. If you are thinking and believing differently about something, that is when you consciously and subconsciously start to take actions that initiate positive change in your life. If you don't focus on how you feel about something, nothing is going to change. And then you end up in that loop that we talked about earlier, that hamster wheel. You can say, I am a millionaire 100 times a day, but if you don't actually believe that it's possible and you don't actually feel into it, and you don't have any emotion or like grit to really want to bring that into life and make it true, nothing ever is going to initiate into a change. You don't want happiness and confidence and money and strength and security. You don't want those things. You want to feel happy and confident and abundant and strong and secure. It's internal. That's the difference. So some examples that we can really use. I love my body. I am happy and confident. I am super wealthy and don't have to worry about money. I exercise daily and have boundless energy. To somebody who doesn't have a truth with any of those affirmations, they will not be effective. And every single one of those affirmations I have written down before and tried to bring them into reality in an ineffective way. How do you turn these affirmations that are simple and ineffective into something that is effective? And it comes down to, how do you add feeling to the affirmations, right? There's two ways to do that. And you should note these down. When you come up with a simple affirmation like that and you have the principle, I love my body. Let's go with that one. Because I think self-love and acceptance is probably one of the hardest things that we do in life and one of the most beautiful things that we can overcome and become one with. It actually brings up a lot of emotions, which may be a little queasy there. How do you add feeling to affirmations? So number one, add permission, will, or openness to the statement. And number two, add passion and emotion to the statement, which can come along with a why statement as well. So let's go with the example, I love my body. That's an ineffective affirmation for somebody who doesn't love their body. Even if you partially love your body and you say, I love my body, you're going to have resistance because you know somewhere deep down that you don't really love your body. You want to make changes, right? It triggers something. It creates anxiety. It makes you realize that you really don't love your body. And you look at yourself and you're like, I don't really, like, I see this and it's not what I want to see. I feel this and it's not what I want to feel. So I love my body. Is it true? Maybe, but not fully. How do we want to feel? You may want to feel proud or happy or confident or secure in your body. So let's change it to, I love and accept my body. So that's a little bit better, right? But it still doesn't really get us there. because it can still trigger resistance and disbelief because it's not yet part of our truth. Do we fully accept our body? Maybe not. Do we want to accept our body? Yeah. But do we fully right now? That's not really entirely true. It brings something unpleasant up still. It still has some sort of resistance cushion. So what if we go to step number 1 and we add permission? I give myself permission, right? I choose to love and accept my body. So now I've given myself permission to choose to love and accept my body. It's a choice that I have. It's opening up a gate. But that doesn't mean that you might not still be having trouble making a choice to love and accept your body. So you see how deep these things can go? Maybe you first need to understand that it's okay to love and accept your body as it is. So then we could change it from I choose to love and accept my body to it's okay to love and accept my body. And how can we increase it a little bit better than that? By adding will next to the permission. So instead of it being okay to love and accept my body, maybe that grows into I am willing to love and accept my body. And that's true. I am willing to love and accept my body. I may not know how. I may not totally love and accept my body now, but I am willing to. And because I am willing to, that means that I'm ready to take action to start loving and accepting my body. And this is much more relatable to my current situation than I love my body. You see how that flows? So that's step 1. You could take it a little bit farther with that too, if you want, and go into the whole learning aspect of it. So I am learning how to love and accept my body is a perfectly beautiful replacement for I am willing. I am learning how to love and accept my body. I started as being willing, but now I'm learning how, which means that I'm taking action every single day in the present tense to love and accept my body. So now the affirmation feels true, right? Everything that we just went through, if you go backwards through it, because we are at a truth now, if we move through them backwards, eventually we come to a spot where I love my body becomes true. So I am learning how to love and accept my body can lead to I am willing to love and accept my body, which can lead to it's okay to love and accept my body, which can lead to I choose to love and accept my body, which leads to I love and accept my body. The second step of that is to add passion and emotion and action to it for growth. So remember, number 1, add permission and will, and even openness. And number 2, add passion, emotion, and action, or your why statement. So let's see how we can transition this when we add passion and emotion and action to it. A lot of this comes with the way you speak, the way you feel. If you're doing a mundane office type voice, it's not going to feel as good as if you're shouting it or you're singing it in the shower. So I'm going to take that same affirmation and turn it into something that's really powerful. I'm so fucking grateful for my body and all of its magical powers that allow me to experience this beautiful earth. I truly love and accept my body. Today, I am doing 30 minutes of yoga in the park next to my house to expand the sacred relationship that I have with my beautiful body. The way you say it matters. The tone of voice and energy, it matters. And when you get to this point, when you've added permission and you've added openness and will, and you've added passion and emotion and action, faking it becomes okay. Because it triggers changes in your subconscious. So even though some of these things might not be true, with the emotion and the passion, you can override the fact that it's not real yet. You can fake it till you make it. That's where that term comes from. Because somewhere deep inside, there is emotion tied to this truth, and this truth is going to grow along with you. So you want to recite these as many times per day as possible, but as they become more and more part of your truth, you'll need to recite them less and less until you eventually embody them without having to talk about it. It becomes part of who you are. Every single thing on that chart that we went over will become part of who you are if you focus your awareness on it if you use your affirmation statements in support of it, if you craft your habits in support of them, if you take daily actions in support of them, your short-term goals, your long-term goals, and your core visions will all come together into one. So another exercise you can do after the call or when you have time, I encourage you to do it as soon as possible, is to write down some affirmation statements that are in alignment with all the things that we talked about, and then add permission, will, and openness, and then add passion, emotion, and action to them. And then use those as your affirmation statements moving forward. Okay. I hope that that stuff was helpful. I hope that it wasn't too much. But I hope that if it was a lot, that you can take little bits and pieces of it and use it for, crafting a better life, a happier life, a more calm life, we should say, peaceful. And I really appreciate everyone that came on here and played with me. And it's good to see some human faces. I've been here in Portland just like by myself without really much of a community, and driving around in my van, which has been amazing. But man, I love all of you, and I really appreciate you coming. And thanks so much, Deb, for putting this on.
Yeah, thanks for being here and bringing so many resources, passion, and energy that you always do bring on your podcast, in your book, in your affirmation deck. All of the things that you've created have inspired me to change my life, to leave my corporate job, to become location independent, to travel, and to do things like I never thought I would do, like find calm here. So those have been inspirations.
That means the world to me.
For you, have done a lot in my life and always been there for me. So I want to thank you for showing up today. And I want to thank Ryan and Priscilla and Jennifer for hanging out, and the other people who are on the call. I appreciate everybody's time and energy. I'm excited. I will be posting this replay. It's going to be up on the YouTube channel, and we're going to send it out in the email. So if you guys aren't already subscribed, you can go to findcalmhere.com and get on the subscription list, and then you'll get the replay. And then you'll also get updates on our upcoming events. This week is a kind of an odd one because we have 2 events coming up. We have another one, well, 2 events this week. We had one tonight with Heath, and then tomorrow we have another one about homeschooling, which is totally different topic. But I feel like it's very timely for a lot of people who have their kids going back to school. So we wanted to offer a little bit of resources and support to find calm around homeschooling. So that's tomorrow night, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. You can grab the Zoom link on the findcalmhere.com website under the events tab. For sure. Heath, I dropped your website, and I know you put your website, Rage Create, in there. Heath does have a podcast. He has a domination deck you can grab on Amazon. And you got some books coming out, correct? Something coming out.
I have a new deck and a book coming out. Yeah.
What's the new book?
So, it's not titled yet, but it's ridiculous.
Well, that's what you should call it. It's ridiculous.
It's not titled yet, but it's ridiculous.
Very cool.
That'll be the whole title of the book.
I love it. All right. Anybody had any last thoughts before you all say bye-bye and ta-ta?
This system is actually from the book too.
You have to say ta-ta before we leave, Keith.
Yeah, just thanks again for everyone for coming, hanging on. And yeah, I mean, it's a system that I've really, truly been part of for years, and it's fundamentally changed my life and lots of people that I've worked with's life, and I'm forever grateful. So I'm always happy to share. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming.
And we do have, Heath is in the Find Calm Here community, and you are all welcome to connect with Heath in the Find Calm Here community as well as on his website and all that good stuff. With that, I will close it out because I know we're like way over time today. I appreciate again everybody for hanging out. Hopefully I'll see you all again on another Find Calm Here call. I look forward to that. Lots of stuff going on in September, and I'm booking actually into December. So we've got lots of Find Calm Here events coming up through the end of the year. So please make sure you subscribe, come join us on the calls. We can hopefully we help you find some calm tonight and in the future. So with that, if you guys want to like unmute yourselves and wave and say bye, and thank you to Heath for being here.
Priscilla said
Bye.
toodles.
Toodles. I love it. Priscilla, thanks.
Toodles.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thanks, Heath. Thanks, guys.